Breaking news. The Philadelphia Eagles are once again stealing the spotlight in the latest headlines. Howie Roseman has proven year after year that he's one of the smartest and most strategic general managers in the NFL. He doesn't just build a competitive roster, he knows exactly how to keep the fans fired up. And let's be honest, Eagles Nation is loving every single move he makes. But before we jump into today's first piece of news, let me throw you a question. What grade would you give Howie for everything he's been doing for the Eagles? Because in my opinion, it's nothing less than a perfect 1,000. And let me just say this on behalf of all the fans. Thank you for everything, Howie. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I felt this excited in decades. The vibe is pure confidence. The roster is loaded with talent, and the entire city truly believes we can bring home another Super Bowl. And you know what? I don't doubt it for a second. We're going to get there because this team has everything it takes to write another historic chapter. But hey, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's still plenty to talk about. So, without further delay, let's dive into today's first story. John Metchie finally made his debut at Eagles training camp, and it didn't take long for him to grab attention. Lining up in midnight green for the first time, Metchie was tested right away in drills orchestrated by Nick Sirianni himself, who stepped in at quarterback to throw low passes, forcing receivers to dive and adjust just like they would in a real game. For someone who missed his rookie season due to leukemia and who fought through a torn ACL at Alabama, even being on that field was a statement of resilience. But it wasn't just about surviving. Metchie showed flashes of why he was so highly regarded as a college star under Nick Saban, catching passes cleanly and even taking on an unexpected role by fielding punts. He had no experience returning punts at Houston or Alabama, but Philadelphia clearly wants to see just how versatile he can be. This move comes at a critical time. With A.J. Brown still nursing a hamstring issue that has sidelined him for 18 days and DeVonta Smith taking a maintenance day, Metchie found himself mixing in with the first-team offense. Kyle McCord delivered him a seam ball in team drills, with McCord handling the QB2 role as Tanner McKee was absent. That put Metchie in a spotlight heading into the preseason finale against the Jets, where he's shaping up to be one of the most intriguing players to watch. The reality is that his NFL journey so far hasn't gone as planned. After being drafted 44th overall by Houston despite the ACL tear, he sat out his rookie year battling leukemia, and when he did hit the field, he was stuck behind established wideouts. In 2 healthy seasons, he totaled 40 receptions, 412 yards, and 1 touchdown. Not bad considering the adversity, but far from what his Alabama resume suggested. 96 catches.
And over 1,000 yards in his final year alone. Now, Philadelphia is betting on his route-running mastery, deceptive footwork, and ability to beat press coverage, translating into real production when surrounded by talents like Brown, Smith, and Jahan Dotson. It's also worth noting the timing of the trade. The Eagles already had young receivers flashing in camp: Johnny Wilson, Darius Cooper, Aeneas Smith, Elijah Cooks, Terrace Marshall. That depth looked strong until disaster struck at today's practice. Wilson had to be carted off. At 6 feet 6 inches and 227 pounds. Wilson is the kind of physical mismatch who opened eyes in the preseason opener against Cincinnati with 3 impressive catches for 73 yards. He looked like he was finally putting it all together, silencing doubts about his hands that lingered from his Florida State days. Losing him, even temporarily, stings, and it makes the Metchie move look even more important. And Cooper? He continues to push his way into the conversation. After leading the team in receiving against Cincinnati and then holding his own against Cleveland, the undrafted rookie has now been repping with the first-team offense and contributing on special teams. That usually means one thing: he's on his way to a roster spot. The Eagles don't hand out first-team snaps this late in August without reason. It's the same logic that makes the Johnny Wilson injury concerning. His unique frame gave him a clear lane to stand out, but injuries are piling up. Add in Andrew Mukuba, the rookie safety who left practice with a hamstring issue just days after starring against Cleveland with a pick-6 and a fumble recovery. And the story of camp is suddenly about talent emerging while injuries threaten to undo it. Mukuba's setback is especially frustrating. He was on track to push Sidney Brown for a starting role next to Reed Blankenship after an eye-popping debut that earned him a near-perfect Pro Football Focus grade. A ball hawk with anticipation skills, he was quickly winning over coaches. But hamstrings are tricky, and this could linger. His injury, combined with Wilson's, casts a shadow over what otherwise looked like a smooth camp. As for Jalen Hurts, the franchise quarterback had an uneven day. Without Brown, Smith, Lane Johnson, or Landon Dickerson, and with Wilson leaving practice, he had limited firepower. He threw a bad interception to Nolan Smith, who continues to shine, but also tossed 2 touchdowns, showing resilience in a tough setup. This is the reality of camp. You want your QB elevating the players around him, but you also can't ignore when key weapons are missing. On the defensive side, young talents like Jalen Carter and Jay Hunis continue to make noise, Carter swatting down passes and Hunis stacking sacks, while Nolan Smith adds playmaking and coverage. Philadelphia sits at a crossroads. Depth is proving to be real, with Cooper and Metchie emerging as names to watch. But injuries to Wilson and Makuba leave legitimate concerns as the opener against Dallas on September 4th creeps closer. The Eagles are talented enough to absorb a few blows, but the margin for error is shrinking. And so the question now becomes clear. With John Metchie trying to revive his career here, Darius Cooper forcing his way onto the roster, and Johnny Wilson going down, what do you, the fans, think about how this wide receiver battle is unfolding for the Eagles? And that's where the real drama of this roster battle picks up. The Eagles front office didn't make the move for John Metchie without a long-term vision in mind. They understand that while A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are one of the best duos in football, the wide receiver 3 role has been unsettled. Jahan Dotson gives them an excellent route runner with speed, but his contract situation looms and there's a real possibility he seeks a payday elsewhere next year. That's why Metchie's acquisition matters beyond 2025. He could develop into that reliable third option who thrives in single coverage, especially with defenses so focused on Brown and Smith. What excites the coaching staff is that Metchie doesn't need to carry the load here. He just has to win on his opportunities, and with the precision of his route running, he can absolutely do that in this offense. Meanwhile, the rise of Darius Cooper is one of those classic Philadelphia camp stories. An undrafted free agent out of Texas, no one had him penciled in for a serious roster shot, but he simply kept producing. The turning point was that preseason game against Cincinnati, where he not only led the team in receiving yards but showcased yards after catch ability, toughness against press coverage, and a knack for finding the end zone. From there, he started getting first-team looks, and when the coaches put him on special teams with the starters, it was essentially a stamp of approval. If you're a rookie fighting for a roster spot, getting that kind of trust is everything. Cooper now looks like a lock to make the 53, and his development could make the Eagles' WR group even deeper. But depth only matters if it stays healthy, and that's where the injuries can't be ignored. Johnny Wilson's situation is unsettling because of the uniqueness of his frame. At 6 feet 6 inches, he brings a physical mismatch that defenses simply don't see every week. His preseason debut against the Bengals was a glimpse of how dominant he could be, especially in contested catch situations. He went up and snatched the ball like a basketball forward pulling down a rebound, out-muscling defenders with his size and strong hands. Those plays aren't just nice highlights. They're the kind of difference-making moments you want in the red zone or on third down. To see him carted off now is not only a blow to his individual development but also to the variety of weapons this offense could deploy. If Wilson can't return quickly, that's one less unique skill set in the rotation, and it makes Metchie's